Raids are one of the modes in GS that pretty much come around every so often. More so on JP than it does on global, but with raids coming out, there's a lot of stuff you need to do. You can either place high to get some of the rewards, or you need to get a lot of defeats, and I do mean a lot of defeats. That means if you're using a regular old team, well, it could take you quite a bit, but if you can nuke it, then that time that it's going to take you to finish this raid completely is significantly cut down. But what happens if you don't know how to go about it? If you don't know where to start when it comes to raid nuking, since you're not just using one team, you're using two? Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this video right here, we're going to be talking about it all, and I'm going to be detailing you how to raid nuke so you can blow up every single raid. This video will work for pretty much every single raid that will come out that is nukeable. There may be a raid that has came out to JP that I don't know about that isn't nukeable. I'm not for sure. I haven't ever been told about this, but if there is, then, you know, I mean, no one will be able to nuke it. But for pretty much 99.9% of raids in the game, this information I'm going to be giving you in this video will work. Also, keep in mind too, unless you're just trying to nuke by yourself to get the most points possible, you're going to be having other players that are going to be joining you to help burst down the boss too, so it's not just all on you. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. You need units. If you're brand new to the game, don't expect to be able to nuke just yet. In time, you'll be able to. As a new player, you should really only be doing raids in the beginning for the equips they drop and the defeat rewards. Getting to number 1 isn't really that worth it nowadays, even for veteran players, because global don't reward us like they used to. I don't know if it's the same on JP, I can't speak on that. The units and teams for this varies greatly depending on who you want to nuke with. We could use units like War God Finn, Saiger Zero, Saber Alter, Sunraku, or whoever else you want to use. Mainly focus on characters with either super crits or units with large multipliers, since they are going to be the easiest to hit high numbers with. Now that we have our nuker, let's move on to the team and ask ourselves a question. Is there a gimmick I need to worry about? At the current moment in global, we have the Emmy raid. The Emmy raid has a gimmick that we need to make sure that we actually do, so we can deal the most amount of damage possible. Emmy needs to be poison, frozen, or diseased, which is why I opted in to slot Emilia here. If only I had Karama Whip though, I wouldn't have to slot in a whole unit. All the other characters are here to make sure the nuker hits harder than my stepdad did on a Sunday night. If you're using a physical damage dealer like War God Finn, consider these units here. Focus on buffing up your physical damage as much as possible while lowering physical res. If you can strike a balance between debuffs and buffs, that will help you out exponentially than just focusing heavy on only one. Same thing goes for magic characters as well. You'll want to bring units like these.
These units are kind of limited, OP. How do you expect us to make a team like this?
And that's the fun part. I don't. You have to make do with what you got. But I'll show you how I tackled these struggles since I don't have every unit in the game either. We have to focus on building two teams. As mentioned before, we're going to be having Emilia in team 1 since we need to apply the freeze, and we're going to be having War God Finn in team 2. Now who you put in team 1 and team 2 are very, very important. For the first team, let's put units that need to apply a debuff. There's no point in putting buffers here since our nuker is in the second team. So for a physical res down debuff, we're going to be throwing on Shiro here. 100% physical res, can't go wrong with that. The next unit I will use for this is going to be Rin for some damage res down, and the final unit is usually a support slot mule like Shady. Now look at that. The first team is already complete. Wait, my bad. Got too ahead of myself. We gotta talk about the equips. For the equips on the first team, mainly focus on Archgen or applying some type of debuff as well. Archgen will be your main worry though, since this team will go first and will have the least amount of Archgen at the start. These are the equips I use though. One thing I will note, if I'm using Shady or some other character that has many support slots, I might run a Dignified Silence, specifically to use on my nuker when I'm done with my first team, just for consistency. Also, if you can't copy this team to a T, like I mentioned before, don't worry, just do what you can. Look for characters that maybe fill a similar role. You don't have to copy any raid nuke team to a T because there's so many options. You can really use any unit in the game that fills that specific role you're looking for. Once all of our debuffs are applied with team 1, it's now time to swap all these guys out for team 2. Team 2 will be the one using War God Finn or whoever you picked as your nuker. So we'll be focusing mainly on buffs or whatever other debuff that we didn't apply in team 1, like elemental resist down. Sagiri! Now we need some type of damage buff, and we have quite a few options, but we're going to throw on Miyu because 200% damage up makes Monkey Brain happy. Then for the final unit, it's all reliable here. Not Forte, Dragon. As for the equips, it's pretty much the same thing. Make sure you have enough arts so your units can get off their super arts or their true arts and make use of whatever debuff/buff you haven't already. One thing you may notice is that since we're getting onto the second team where we're having to slot in so many equips, it's getting harder and harder to figure out ways to actually buff up your damage. And because of that, I would highly recommend using any equip that actually has stack in its skill, since these equips will stack with the same type of debuff, hence why it says stack in the skill. A really good example of an equip like this is the 5-star physical from the Mines, Despair. So these are the equips that I decided to go with. Unfortunately, your boy needs to farm mines even more because I don't have any despairs, because if I did, I would use them here. Now we are finally ready. We can bear arms. We can nuke the raid. This is what we've been waiting for. This is our moment. Oh wait, they insta-killed the boss already before I got to play my hand, pretty much. Screw this. I'm gonna go get some water. Y'all should too.